My heart beat faster as I ascended the staircase. Out of habit, I glanced toward the Queen's wing when Syra and I reached the landing. The corridor leading to Mama's chamber was cast in shadow, the artwork that lined the walls draped in black fabric that puddled on the ground.
"Make way for Princess Lyria Illimaris,"
a deep voice boomed. I jerked my head from the direction of my mother's wing and might have stumbled if not for Syra's steadying hand on my elbow. "It's just the herald, child," she whispered. "No need to fear." "I'm not afraid," I said, but my voice cracked on the last word, ruining my declaration. My cheeks heated, and I cleared my throat as Syra and I climbed the stairs to the king's apartments. Half a dozen knights stood on either side of the landing, their long braids flung over their armor-clad shoulders. The length indicated they'd served for centuries without being wounded in battle. In my father's court, members of the Winter Guard never cut their hair unless they sustained an injury. Suffering a wound was a source of great shame, since it meant the knight had allowed an enemy to get that much closer to the king or his family. As I reached the top step, each knight placed a fist over his heart and bowed his head. The herald stepped from the shadows and offered the same gesture before sweeping his arm down the corridor.
"He will see you now, Your Highness."
I looked at Syra. She gave me a brief, encouraging smile. Then, together, we started forward.
"No,"
the herald said, stopping us.
"Just the princess."
My heart sped up as I looked past the herald and down the broad corridor lined with suits of armor and flickering torches. Syra was right. I had nothing to fear from my own father, but I hadn't spoken to him alone in... well, I couldn't remember the last time. The affairs of the kingdom demanded his attention. But those affairs were mine now, too. Of course he wanted to meet alone. With a final look at Syra, I swept past the herald and headed down the corridor. A trill of anticipation straightened my spine and turned my steps slow and measured. That was how a queen walked. How Mama walked. If I worked hard enough, if my magic grew strong enough, I could make her stop being sad about not giving my father a real heir. The double doors to my father's apartments stood open. Morning sunlight spilled from the room and slanted over the thick carpet that ran down the center of the corridor. I hesitated, the hem of my skirts brushing the pale yellow bands, then stepped into the wide doorway. "Your Majesty?" Even as the words left my mouth, I realized the man facing the long arched windows wasn't my father. He looked similar enough from behind. Like my father, this man was tall and broad-shouldered with long silver-white hair that fell to the center of his back. But there was a tension about him my father didn't possess. This man was a warrior, above all else, with an impressive list of victories tied to his name. Ronan Morandil, the Sword of the North. All of Ishalem knew him to be a formidable opponent in any battle, conventional or magical. But for as long as I could remember, I'd known Lord Ronan as my father's best friend and closest advisor. He turned from the window, his blue eyes as pale as the sky above the winter court.
"Princess Lyria."
It took a moment for my surprise to wear off. "Lord Ronan." I looked around the elegant outer chamber that served as a meeting space. "Where's my father?" Ronan crossed the room. He seemed to realize he towered over me because he went to one knee, putting his head on the same level as mine. An odd little tremor wobbled in my stomach. I'd never been this close to him. The sunlight gleamed around his head, turning his hair the same platinum shade as my own. He'd drawn the upper half back from his face, revealing his strong jaw, tapered ears, and handsome features touched with more than a little arrogance. He wore court clothes instead of armor, but the lack of steel didn't blunt his size. His wide shoulders stretched the fabric of his black jacket, which was embroidered with the same ink.